ones, and most importantly, thank you for your support of the center. It's so important to us. So thank you very much. I'm glad we get to celebrate you at this evening. As Kristan mentioned, I am transitioning, and I pass the chair to the very capable Phil Malbone, so I know we are the center really is as strong as ever. It's a wonderful time for me to leave. I do have a bit of a proprietary feeling, I must say. And within the past year, we brought on two very capable staff people, and I know you know them, but I would like David and Elizabeth, just to stand and let's welcome that we had our annual board meeting this weekend, and both of them, here under a year, really wowed us with their work. So we're very happy to have them and really move with that momentum. Walking back from our meeting this afternoon, I'm going to go into a little bit of a personal story, so bear with me. I looked up at the blue sky, and I saw this beautiful blue sky, this puffy clouds, felt this wonderful breeze, and I could just hear my mother say, "Oh dear." I should have brought water up with me. It's a Spring Creek kind of day. Thank you. I knew this would happen. Spring Creek, for those of you who don't know, is the farming community where Robert H. Jackson was born. And it was a special place that he shared with my mother, his daughter, and she in turn shared with us, spent many summers there. And it occurred to me that while I don't know what Jackson would have thought about a particular issue, I get that question quite often. I never even met him, and no one can really speculate how he would think about certain issues. I at least know two things my mother would have thought. Firstly, she would have been immensely grateful and relieved that the Jackson Center even existed. She died before we learned of its existence, to engage a broader audience in the legacy of her father. And secondly, she would have wished for more Spring Creek days, both of which I believe we can agree on. So thank you very much.
Well, this is a Jackson Society standoff here. Would you please welcome John Jackson for our invitation?
Would you join me in prayer? Dear God, we come to you with a profound gratitude and humility. We thank you for the blessings of the Robert H. Jackson Center and its enterprises, and for the commitment of the staff, the interns, the volunteers, and the supporters. We are grateful for the food and fellowship we are about to enjoy. And we ask that you make us mindful of the need to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with you. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, John. This is enough for me for right now, so please eat, and I will be back around dessert time. So about 4 years ago, I wasn't thinking when I put together the program, and I created the section In Memoriam Greg Peterson. And the initial reaction was like, oh my God. I didn't know, yes. So, because it tickles me every year, we are continuing with In Memoriam featuring Greg Peterson.
Actually, I heard earlier tonight that Kristan was going to announce her future plans of the Robert Jackson Center, and immediately, right after dinner, in memoriam, Greg Peterson. So that's going to be David Niles' big picture soon. So stay tuned. Before we get started, hold on.
You're bringing your video camera?
Always.
Two things, which before we do the in memoriam, I was so thrilled that the Robert H. Jackson Center, in one of its most recent acts during this particular strategic planning, was to name the Jamestown Tarp Skunks as its official team. I was so thrilled. And as a result, there was a large contingent that showed up at Friday night's game, and because of that, in the bottom of the 10th, we walk it off, and now we're in the playoffs because of the Robert Jackson Center. There will be a game Tuesday night. Now, as a way to thank everybody, who do you thank? The Jackson Society is who you thank. And so everybody will have a chance to walk out with one of these unique pieces. Now, either for yourselves, you can be selfish and keep it for yourselves and snuggle up with it, or if you want to take them and give them to your kids, grandkids, you may do so. But there'll be a box as you're walking out. Please do so. We'll leave that here for, that's branding. That's branding. Robert H. Jackson branding.
That's the wrong branding.
Since I have the mic, let's do it. Larry Thompson was the director, longstanding Deputy Attorney General for under Bush, and he was there at 9/11, and he's a Chautauquan on the board member, and he was our speaker. He was also the general counsel for Pepsi. So he made sure that when he spoke at this particular event, that he put Pepsi right there, Diet Pepsi right there, and whatever the brand of Sprite was right there. The other thing, and it's just totally personal, tomorrow at 7:30 when you wake up, and if you happen to be turning on TV, Good Morning America will feature my daughter. She'll be there, Amy Peterson, as part, live, as part of her Rebel Now franchise. She'll be on Good Morning America. So enough of that stuff. In memoriam, here we go. This is always bittersweet, because in one sense, when I go through this list, all of you will know these people. All of them have meant tremendous amounts to us at the Robert Jackson Center as we are about to embark at the end of this year and celebrate our 25th anniversary. Who would have guessed? 25 years of the Jackson Center. And many of the people who we're memorializing and remembering are those people who, upon the shoulders upon which we stand today. And thank you, Kristan, for permitting me to do this. And at some point she may go like this, but it's my chance to kind of pause and reflect on some of the people who really made it a reality and what they did. Sometimes you don't know what they did, because sometimes we take for granted that you take a snapshot. Here we are today. We look at this facility, we look at the brochures, we look at a variety of things, and we say, gee, that's here. But sometimes you don't know how it happened. Peel back the onion, and these are the people who made it happen. Let me go through the names fairly quickly. Carolyn Volk, she was the one that created, she was one of the first of our docents. She created the brochures. So we had the threefold brochures. She was it. She actually wrote them. We needed them. She was that person. There were two other docents who almost were seemingly together all the time, who were there all the time, Jill Palmer and Ann Cole. And they were just terrifically, and they died within a month of each other. It was sad for me, but fond memories. By the way, all three of these, I did have a chance to interview them, so if you want to know what their thoughts about us, they're on YouTube. And I'll talk about Ann Cole in just a second and how she tied in. Contributors. Paul Bush, President, CEO of Bush Industries. We are at a location right here in the basement, which is, look at it, it's fantastic. But in 2001, May of 2001, and a few people might remember, We wanted to do something because really it was April of 2001 when we bought the building. We wanted to do something spectacular just to get started, and this was one big leaky building mess. This basement was nothing but a leaky building, water-stained mess. Paul Bush, my wife was Cindy, upon the person who, which I'd be nothing but for her, you know, that's what it says. Yeah, but anyway, she was the general counsel of Bush Industries, and we got Paul Bush and the entire Bush Industries, and they turned us into a wonderful ice castle event. We had Eugene Gerhardt, the first biographer of the Robert H. Jackson, and he was here, and that's the first time John Barrett, by the way, met Eugene Gerhardt. So we have a wonderful picture of the two biographers, one place, one time, kind of the passing of the torch. But that was Paul Bush who made that happen, paid for it, and underwrote it. And he also, we had various touch screen activities here. So whatever Bush Industries had extra, including all of our furniture, was really Bush Industries. But Paul passed away this past year. Jack Nord, another person, Union National. You may or may not know Jack, but he provided us various furniture. And if you go into Kristan's office, you'll see a beautiful break front that Jack and Union National provided to us. Under the contributors category, again, names you may or may not know, Dwayne Anderson. Dewey Anderson was part of the Masons. The Masons owned this place, the Scottish Rite Consistory. And it was Dewey Anderson, among a few others, who in fact made that available for us to buy this place. And it's a long, long story, which I will save until the 25th anniversary. Invite me back, Kristan. I'll be glad to talk to you.
I'll take that under advisement.
Yeah, exactly. Hold back. Hal Conroe, who, you know, the folks from Warren know well. It was Hal, passed away this past year, and it was the Conroes who, among other Warren supporters, really made available to all of the high school students the book, the Gail Jarrell book, so that every 11th grader, I think 11th grade, wasn't it, Peggy, would get the book at Warren High School, and still do. And it was Hal, and among others, and I'm looking at Bob Crowley and others that supported all of that, but that was an amazing thing. Hal passed away this past year. Ann Heimbaugh, and Ann passed away, and Ann goes way back. She had a long-standing relationship with Bill Jackson and Nancy Jackson. And that relationship, and she brought that to the fore, so much so that we had Nancy here. This was Bill Jackson's widow, was here, and Ann passed away. John LaFalce, Congressman John LaFalce, and good friends with Stan Lundeen, passed away this year. And John was a major player in that whole Love Canal, and he came down here and talked about that at great length. And he was a friend, a fan. He would show up, and every time we had a Robert Jackson Center event up at Chautauqua, it was Congressman John LaFalce. And he added celebrity along with, of course, the Honorable Stan Lundeen. He's here. Thank you, Stan. And that was really special. Chautauqua Institution. We've had a long-standing relationship here. And Shannon, I'm so glad you're joining the board. And Michael Hill's already on the board, is on the board. Thank you for that. But it's been long-standing. I mean, literally from day one, Dan Bratton was our first executive director, and that whole connectiveness. And as a result of that came, you know, some really special people. Some of them are right here. Arnie and Jill Bello, and Kitty and Bluey Greenberg, and Vic and Joan Gelb, and they were there at the beginning with Joe Raitt. Remember Joe Raitt, of course? And they blew in my ear a lot. They weren't shy. You know, that's one thing nice about Chautauqua. If they got something to express for the good, it was always positive, they would share it. But we lost one of that group in Bluey Greenberg this year, and I just want to pause and just say how grateful we are to Bluey's memory. And Kitty, we're so glad you're here tonight, because literally day one, there was Bluey Greenberg, and we're glad to continue that support from that whole Chautauqua connection, so thank you very much. A few others who passed away, Marcia Pops, you may know Marcia and her husband. I saw him at Chautauqua, at the Everett Jewish Life Center, and how they would support us in many ways, but always through the Everett Jewish Life Center, Edith Everett. We would bring in people from the Holocaust, people, Gabriel Bach, who was Adolf Eichmann's prosecutor. You know, how cool was that? And Marcia passed away this past year. Bob McClure. Bob McClure, who, gosh, when it came to our Turner Winter Series for the almost 20 years we've done that, Bob was always front and center. Bob was the guy who plays. My gosh, if there was ever a play read or play whatever, Bob was the guy who came up and suggested things, and he did an awful lot for us, especially at Chautauqua, especially at the Turner Theater. And a person you may or may not know, Dr. Leonard Katz. Dr. Leonard Katz passed away and very much involved in Holocaust education. And he, together with Leanne Hendricks, worked with the Jackson Center, continue to work with the Jackson Center, with scholars down in, they go to Washington, D.C., and he passed away this past year. Juanita Jackson. To John, we extend not only our condolences, but the vivid memory we have of Juanita Jackson, a force of nature. A force of nature. And if she were here today, we'd be off in song. We'd be singing about something at this point. And she was so thrilled to be part of this, but also thrilled that John could be part of this, and also lobbying heavily in my ear throughout every one of these Jackson Society meetings that this really is named wrongly. It's not the Robert H. Jackson Center, it should be the John Jackson Center. And so I was thinking about that tonight, John, as I was coming in. I'll leave that to other people who make that decision. But to Juanita, and we have concerts she did on our behalf, fundraisers, and in a great interview that we did with Juanita that really bespoke her just tremendous background and knowledge. Dr. Joan Brown Campbell passed away. I have much to say about her, but I will try to keep this short. She was one of the first interviews we did here. She came, she wanted to be part of the Jackson Center, and we interviewed her about her life in times, and at the same time, she just joined us. This is kind of a personal story. She's very involved with Elian Gonzalez. Remember Elian Gonzalez, Cuba? And she had gone frequently to meet with Fidel Castro. You know, like, wow, this is unbelievable. And after we got done with the interview, she was telling us that she was going to go to Miami to be part of the lobbying team to encourage Castro to be there. So literally, the next week, I went to Cuba as part of a group, and I'm at the Hotel Nacional, and I'm watching CNN in Cuba, and there is out the front window a huge gathering of students honor, Elian Gonzalez, bring him home. And I'm watching CNN from the hotel room, and there at the airport on the other end of CNN is Joan Brown Campbell, the person I just interviewed 3 days ago. They're front and center with Elian Gonzalez as they're working towards trying to get him back to Cuba. And I'm looking out the window and seeing Fidel Castro, literally Fidel Castro, do this. And I also want to note that she did an awful lot for us, was very supportive. The Department of Religion was very supportive of getting speakers on our behalf up there. And I did get a letter from Jane Campbell, who is Joan's daughter, thanking us for contributions we made. And she said, with the attack on the rule of law going on in this country, I am sure that she would be so appreciative of this investment in the Robert H. Jackson Center. That's the kind of person Joan Brown Campbell was. On the founders category, we lost two giants. One, a board member, Arthur Bailey. Arthur Bailey, lawyer, another force of nature. And Art, he, from day one, believed in the benefits of the Robert H. Jackson Center. He's the one who actually, on his own time, energy, and money, put together a big bunch of books on every opinion that Robert Jackson had ever written, whether they were majority, concurring, dissenting, you name it, he got it. He, on his own nickel, put it all together in big volumes that we have upstairs. And he was also, put his money where his mouth was. He created a fund at the Chautauqua Region Community Foundation. He also was there to support us when we needed if you ever go up and see one of our big dog and pony shows when we have the appellate division or the Court of Appeals, or when we bring out the big bench, it's the Bailey bench, he funded that as well. And he was on the board for many years, and he died as a member of the board. And Art's, he and his family continue to encourage us. So, Art Bailey. The last founder we lost this year, and he really was the founder, Willard Cass Jr., the Honorable Willard Cass Jr. Surrogate court judge for many, many years. Frewsburg person, I always refer to him as the second most important attorney ever from Frewsburg, was Willard Cass Jr. But the story, and I must share this to preserve it, is this building here. This building here, I had put in an offer to buy the building for some nascent organization called the Robert Jackson Center, which hadn't been formed. It had not been formed. Just a crazy thought. But it's a big building, 19,000 square feet, and I wasn't sure. So when I came and saw people like Dewey Anderson, said, look, I'd like to, this is, Jackson was a 33rd degree Mason, we got this concept. And they said, well, somebody's put in an offer, and we're going to vote on it tonight. We're going to vote on this building tonight. And so I called Betty Linnae, who, of course, our good friend from Chautauqua, and she had, again, the story, come back on the 25th, I'll tell you the whole story. But I called Betty and said, we've got a kind of an issue here if we're thinking about this building, because it's going to vote on it tonight. So she called Judge Cass, who was a 33rd degree Mason, and said, because they were friends, we need help. So I don't really know. I'm a Mason, but I'm a pretty bad Mason. And so I don't know what really happened, but somehow there was a Masonic injunction, and things stopped. They hold. And Judge Cass introduced me to the powers to be, and ultimately we went head to head on this building, and we succeeded. And here we are today. Here we are today. And it's really Willard Cass who permitted, because sometimes I know we all live in lives where you don't know at some point where things happen, and sometimes serendipitous, sometimes divine intervention, where it just puts you in a different direction, different place. But here we are today, and Judge Cass was one of those guys. Finally, we lost a real friend in Phil Donahue. Phil Donahue. The story is worth retelling because it involves Ann Cole. While I was contemplating programming of what might be fun here, I saw an interview that was done with Phil Donahue about the history television, because he was in the Hall of Fame of television. And he said one of his first things was to interview Albert Speer. Albert Speer, whoa! Nuremberg defendant. And so all of a sudden I go, wouldn't it be cool to interview the guy who interviewed Albert Speer? Now how did that happen? It's Phil Donahue. It's Phil Donahue. Well, I knew enough to know that Phil occasionally would come to Chautauqua, and he would be there with Ted Wolf, and but I didn't know how to break into that circle. So Ann Cole, God bless Ann Cole, she listened to me the next morning, and I said, Ann, I know you know Ron Cole. Ron Cole, you're married to Ron. So let's play the card here. Could you ask Ron, who in fact is an astronomer, he had he's got big scopes and all that other stuff, to talk to Ted Wolf, because Ted's in that world too, astronomy. And Ted, maybe, Phil Donahue, at some point, he would listen to me make a pitch. Well, I didn't hear back. But the next morning, I'm at the office and I get a call, and it's from, hi, I'm Phil Donahue. I understand you want to talk to me. Now you got to think really fast. And so I said, here's what I would like to have happen. I explained to Albert Speer, if it's possible to get videos of your interview with Albert Speer, I'll interview you about what it was like to interview Albert Speer. And we went on, and he goes, Greg, I'd be happy to do it. Here's when I'll be in Chautauqua. Just show me the mark, and I'll be there. Show me the mark, and I'll be there. And I just was blown away. So we did it. We did it. Maybe some of you came to that. Packed. Phil Donahue shows up here, gives us an amazing show. And Phil, during the course of the interview, while he's talking about Speer, He then gets up and says, I just gave a commencement speech in North Carolina, and I talked about his case on Barnett. Stands up during the interview, and we were interviewing, we were both sitting, stands up and looks at the crowd, and he recites the Jackson quote that is often discussed. And he did that, and I'm looking at Ed Tomasini. Ed's taking away. I go, did you get that? This is no script. He's not reading. He just plain did it. Which subsequently we did. I see Allie Russell here. Allie, thank you very much. Because Allie, Mark Russell, Phil Donahue all became friends, and Mark and Phil actually did something similar on the Barnett case, an event which I showed a little bit about a couple of years ago when we honored Mark. Now, Phil subsequently did a fundraiser for us. Marlo Thomas showed up. That was great. And he did a couple events here as well and spoke at the Jackson Center at a Jackson Society event, which we held upstairs. And it's at that time I made a fool of myself. I know I can do it. Talk to my wife. She'll give you several examples. But I want to share with you as I exit, I want to share with you a little piece of Phil Donahue, of me in front of a crowd of about 200 people. You have to turn around. You're going to have to turn around and see that video there. I'll give you a second because it is worth it. You don't want to miss this because it'll create a guffaw at my expense. Okay, thank you. How does this come together? And this is an interesting story because Phil Donahue has always been a fan of mine, has obviously given the crowd a lot of people. Yeah, what does he fit?
You said I've always been a fan of yours.
Oh, have you? Have you been a fan of mine?
Always. Far back as
I hope he says that. And Ed, you got this on film? You got it. Perfect. I'm going to play this on YouTube. Absolutely.
So let's celebrate this for our kids. Let's make sure they know about it. Let's support Greg. And he knows I'm a big fan of his.
Wow. My new best friend, Phil Donahue. Thank you.
It is always a tough act to follow. But because we do the in memoriams in the middle, so we can then do the lifting up after that. Not that Greg isn't a show all on his own. Before we move into what has become a tradition for us in the year in review video from the interns, I want to first thank the McClenathan brothers for providing the live music for us upstairs during the cocktail time. All right, so I don't do a whole lot of introduction for the intern video because I think that they speak for themselves within it. And so we are queuing it up now, so I will riff a little bit until we get to the point where it is ready. Thank you all for bearing with me there. And then I will introduce the interns to you afterwards as well. You have their bios in your program, so you can certainly see what they are about. But Keon, let me know if we are ready. Okay, very good. All right, then please turn your attention to the screen.
Hello, and welcome back to the Robert H. Jackson Center. A few things have changed since we were here a year ago. The biggest change is in the room with us today. The RHJC family has 2 new members, David Niles, our new Director of Development, and Elizabeth Hosier, our new Director of Programming. Let's check in.
Hey David. We're filming the year in review video and we have a couple questions for you.
Oh, okay.
What do you do here at the center and what's your favorite part about the center so far?
Wow, those are great questions. So I'll start with the first one. What do I do? Well, I spearhead all fundraising and donor relations strategies. This includes the annual fund, corporate sponsorships, grant writing, cultivating relationships, and maintaining our database. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. And I think my favorite part of working at the center, for me, it's all about investing in people, learning about people, why they're involved with the center, and just listening to their stories.
Thanks, David. Let's take a look at how that community came together to love, learn, celebrate, and grow this year. This year, the Jackson Center started 2 new traditions. To emphasize the center's role as a home for Jamestown's diverse communities, we hosted 3 flag-raising celebrations on the center's grounds this year, for Indigenous Peoples Day, for Pride Month, and for Juneteenth. Each celebration was full of joy and community and reinforced the center's place as a hub for democratic expression in the Jamestown area. In this year's second new tradition, the center brought people together by becoming a courthouse for a day and serving as a venue for the naturalization ceremonies of new American citizens. These events, too, were incredible celebrations of what it means to embrace the truths enshrined in the Constitution and to live your life by them, the way that Robert H. Jackson did. The center also brought people together for a community performance of 12 Angry Men, among others, and celebrated its volunteers with a luncheon, and its founders with a Founders Day evening celebration. Now, let's see what Elizabeth has been up to.
Hey, Elizabeth. It's good to see you. How are the Steelers doing? I'm just kidding. We'd like to know, what's your brand new role at the center, and what have you enjoyed doing most so far?
I lead the center's educational and public programming. So that's everything from civic education and teacher seminars to public lectures, continuing legal education, and other community programs. And what's meant the most to me is building programs that connect people, especially students and educators, to the life and legacy of Robert Jackson. It's really rewarding to help ensure that the next generation understands the importance of justice and democracy and their role in sustaining it.
We'd have to agree with Elizabeth. That initiative is pretty awesome. Since Elizabeth joined the center, we've hosted 2 very successful educator retreats and 4 events specifically targeted at reaching students and educators in the area. 1A Day, the Jackson Center, Bob's Pop-Up Court, the 2025 Battle of the Books, and Constitution Day with Karen Korematsu, the daughter of Fred Korematsu, to commemorate the anniversary of this important case in one of Jackson's most memorable descents. Of course, the center also hosted a number of other amazing events and speakers this year. Some of the highlights included working with George Washington University School of Law to invite leading judges and lawyers to reenact the October 1944 U.S. Supreme Court oral arguments in the Korematsu case, and to act out a mock civil case being litigated by a Fred Korematsu who was subjected to an order to leave his home and report to a location from which he will be sent to a detention center, as well as hosting acting United States Attorney Troy Rivetti for the Jackson Day in Warren, a yearly celebration in honor of Jackson's birthday, inviting Deborah Stuber to tell her parents' moving story of surviving the Holocaust, fighting Nazis and the French Resistance, and making a new life in America, and listening to Barbara L. McQuaid, University of Michigan Law School professor and former United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan, and John Q. Barrett, Benjamin N. Cardozo Professor of Law at St. John's University, and Elizabeth S. Linné Fellow at the Robert H. Jackson Center, discuss the U.S. Department of Justice, then and now. Last fall, the center also hosted the Smithsonian's traveling exhibition of Voices and Votes, Democracy in America, alongside our own exhibit, The Story of Our Participation, which highlighted our region's deep involvement in democratic endeavors. Both exhibits celebrated the history and challenges of democracy nationally and in Jamestown, New York. And a third project, Our Story Bridge, Share Your Voting Story with Us, allowed visitors to memorialize their voices in that history. Throughout the year, the center also continued to be home to the Living Voices series, moving performances which told the stories of those who survived the Holocaust, who endured the World War II-era incarceration of Japanese Americans, who immigrated through Ellis Island, and who fought for women's suffrage at the end of the 20th century, and civil rights in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, in their own words. Finally, this summer, the Jackson Center continued its yearly tradition of inviting 5 interns to work and learn at the center. They worked on this video, among other things, but if you want to hear about those projects, you'll have to come up and ask. They do have one message for you, though.
Go.
Thank you, Jackson Center.
in case you've not yet had an opportunity to speak with our interns, let me make them stand now, and so you can find them and ask them about their projects. Anna Torres Carvela, Simon Ocean Pantine, Kiana Wusu Asante, Mark Zheng, and Danielle Gibson. Thank you all, and really do speak with them. They are very interesting individuals. They are with us for approximately 3 more weeks. For those of you who will be on the institution grounds next week, we will also be there for the morning lectures, so we hope to interact with you there as well. Before I move into what has also become a tradition for us with the State of the Center, I want to recognize some of the people in this room. We are largely an organization served by volunteers, and that service takes place in a number of ways. So I would like all those who have served as a docent for the center to please stand. All those who have previously served on the board of directors here, please stand. And all those who currently serve on the board of directors, please stand. Julia is very confused as to where she fits. Thank you. We really could not do what we do without all of these volunteers. All right, the State of the Center. Thank you all so very much for joining us this evening. My name is Kristan McMahon, and I have had the privilege of serving as the president of the Robert H. Jackson Center for the last 6 years. For the last few years, this dinner has been deliberately planned to occur in conjunction with the annual meeting of the center's board. We appreciate their help in expressing our gratitude to you, as well as giving them an opportunity to share their excitement about their service and our accomplishments and path. Each year, I take this opportunity to share the state of the center through a lens of a focused word or phrase. And this year, that word is elevation. And I am so genuinely pleased to celebrate our accomplishments with you and give you a peek into where we're going. 3 years ago, with the help of a grant from the Western New York Foundation, we embarked on a capacity building journey. And I think everyone in this room knows that this is not a journey that ever really has an end, because there are always more aspirations, and there's always more work to be done to achieve those goals. 2 years ago, we spoke about the 3 phases in the center's life so far and how that was shaping our future. Last year, we spoke about the largely invisible internal work that we were doing on our cornerstones and our infrastructure. And now, as our board discussed this weekend, our foundations are firmly in place, and we are ready to build on those and elevate our mission to our audiences, elevate our work in new ways, and elevate the Jacksonian principles to new ears and hearts. First, let me speak about our programs. And Elizabeth is, I think this is now your 3rd introduction this evening, but she is our inaugural director of programs. And that is a very big step for us. As I think you all know, I was in charge of our programs when I first arrived. And then COVID happened, which actually made programming a lot easier, honestly, because I had a lot less to think about. And then moving out of COVID, running this place takes a lot of energy and there's a lot of levers to be pulling. So having someone who is completely focused on our programming and what we offer there is a godsend, honestly, to me and to our organization. She has been in her role just about 10 months, so she's still within her 1st year. And in that time, as you have heard a few times this evening, she has expanded the types of programs that we offer to students, teachers, and the public. And I want to highlight a few of these. She developed 1A Day, a community event to celebrate and learn about our First Amendment rights. She created Bob's Pop-Up Court, and with the help of this summer's intern cohort, gave everyone the opportunity to be a judge. And if you're interested, it is on our website, so you can also still be a judge. She has executed 2 educator workshops so far this year, 2 rave reviews, one participant calling it the most impactful professional development she has ever been to in her 15 years as a teacher. And we have a long tradition of educating the educators, and we're so excited to bring these ideas to new audiences. And there's so much more to come. In November of 2025, we will begin celebrating the 80th anniversary of the International Military Tribunal at Nuremberg, which Robert H. Jackson once described as the hardest thing he ever had to do, and which we at the center see as one of the most tangible touchstones of his legacy. Elizabeth is launching an international series of virtual programs with partners in the United States, Great Britain, and Germany, which will include both historic and contemporary points of view to mark this historic event. This will kick off in November to coincide with the anniversary of the start of the trial. Second, we will be opening a new exhibit in this space, our banquet room, called Robert H. Jackson's Legacy of Justice, From Nuremberg to Today. And this will also happen in November. The international criminal justice system is rooted in and markedly similar to the systems established for the IMT and for the subsequent trials in Nuremberg. And this exhibit will trace the through line from that beginning to the ad hoc tribunals of the 90s and 2000s, to the International Criminal Court, and to the questions that the global community is wrestling with today. And we hope that you can join us when we launch this in November. Third, this fall, we will kick off an upgrade to the audio and video capabilities of the Carl Kappa Theater to elevate our programs, move to more eco-friendly options, and make the center a better partner for our communities by expanding our capabilities to host their performances, conferences, and work. Now that I think about it, November sounds really busy. This elevation of what the Carl Kappa Theater is capable of doing has been a long time coming. I feel like I have been talking about it for years, and we are so very excited to actually kick off that work. And then finally, just this week, roberthjackson.org got a brand new look as we launched our new website 2 days ago. It is more visually appealing and a more informative platform to advance our goal of educating the world on the life and legacy and the continuing importance of Robert H. Jackson. There are some quirks to it. We're still doing some tweaks, so let me just be fully honest. The tech gremlins are still behind the scenes a little bit. But now we will focus on adding information and resources to the site, everything from lesson plans to biographies and histories, to archives and articles, to exhibits and games. This is a long-term project, to be honest. I feel like we probably will never be done gathering all of the information about Robert H. Jackson. But it's important for us to at least begin because his life and legacy are so vast and so important. I do not do my work in isolation, as I hope you all know. And the center's amazing and passionate team are quite the force to be reckoned with. So may I also ask Elizabeth, Sherry Shutter, David Niles, Kenny McDonald, and Ed Tomasini to stand. Along with our docents and board, I feel so deeply grateful for their brainpower, for their passion, for their thoughtfulness, for their talents, all of which enable us to be the success that we are. I would also like to ask you to help me celebrate the service of 2 board members in particular. First is the Honorable Stephen Cass, who completed 9 years of board service this summer. He is a powerhouse idea generator and is always contemplating and always thinking about how the center can capitalize on our strengths to move beyond even what we thought we could do. He unfortunately could not be here with us this evening, but if you will please clap for him, I would appreciate it. And the second is Julia Crickhill, who this weekend completed her 3rd year of service as our board chair and her 13th year of service on our board. Julia, who as you know is a Jackson grandchild, always describes her trepidation in taking on first the role of board member, and then the role of program committee chair, and finally the role of board chair. She is the first family member to serve in that role, and I will say that our board and our center are tremendously grateful for her leadership these last 3 years. As you all know, she is a passionate advocate for our mission, our work, and a great thought partner, and a champion for our direction, and we thank her deeply. So this dinner usually immediately precedes the Robert H. Jackson Lecture on the Supreme Court of the United States at Chautauqua, but we're breaking tradition this year. This dinner is standing alone, and so we certainly encourage you to join us at Chautauqua Institution, either in person or virtually. If you're not in the area at the time, you can join us on the assembly on Monday, August 11th at 3:30 p.m. at the Hall of Philosophy for the 21st annual Robert H. Jackson Lecture on the Supreme Court of the United States. Our speaker is Kim Lane Shepley, the Lawrence S. Rockefeller Professor of Sociology and International Affairs in the Princeton School of Public and International Affairs and the University Center for Human Values at Princeton University. I'd like to deeply thank Jill and Arnie Bello and the Bello Family Foundation for their support of this lecture. And on the back of your programs, you will find a very short list of our upcoming programs, which include the Jackson Lecture, as well as we hope that you can join us on September 13th for Jackson After Dark and experience the center in a different light. We also hope to welcome you on Friday, September 19th for our Constitution Day program. Lindsay Cormack is the author of a book called How to Raise a Citizen and Why It's Up to You. And I think that we already have a number of schools signed up for it. We do have room for the public to join us as well, so we hope you will consider that. Our 2025 program theme is accountability, the role we have. And that has guided not only our program development this year, but our internal conversations about the larger work of the center. I know you all invest in our mission and work because you see the same things that we see. The decline in the trust of our institutions and the decline in civic participation. The polarization in our communities, the global tests to the rule of law, and the need for the Jacksonian legacy and lens to provide facts and guidance to navigate these challenges and opportunities. Your support enables us to educate students and teachers, to work with young adults like our interns and contribute to their future successes, and to provide a space to ask questions and foster conversations on vital topics like civics, legal cases and legal work, humanitarian issues, and justice, which is possibly the largest topic ever. This work takes deep commitment and an understanding that we may not be the ones to benefit from this work. We are planting seeds in current and future generations and eagerly awaiting to see how and where they bloom. We could not do this work without you, so thank you. For our closing remarks, may I invite our incoming board chair, Phil Nowbone, to the podium, please.
Thank you, everyone. And I wanted to thank Julia and Kristan for giving me the assignment of closing our ceremonies tonight. And with that assignment comes the obligation to be brief. I promise I'll be very brief. I want to let all of you know what an honor it is for me to stand before you tonight in my beloved hometown of Jamestown, New York, as the newly elected chair of the Robert H. Jackson Center. I hold this as a sacred trust. I'm mindful of all of the hard work over many, many years by the founders, the staff past and present, the docents, other volunteers, and of course, the generosity of our donors and other supporters. I'm also mindful of the important work of the center and the role that we play in the broader world. You know, I had to laugh a moment ago to myself when Julia mentioned, when Kristan mentioned Julia's trepidation about taking on the important role of representing her grandfather's legacy. Imagine how I feel having to step in to Julia's shoes. I'm the descendant of a bunch of Sicilian immigrants. I have no blood ties to the Jackson line, but I assure you that I am deeply committed to the Jackson legacy. And I want to thank you again, Julia, for your service and your confidence in me. I've been a member of the center's board now for about 1.5 years, but my fascination with the work of the center and my desire to serve its mission actually goes way back to almost exactly a decade ago, when through an intermediary, I proposed a somewhat controversial topic here for the Jackson Center. I asked them to sponsor a public forum. And Greg Peterson and the staff at the time did not hesitate to engage in that program. And I knew then that the center took its responsibilities very seriously to amplify the principles of justice and the rule of law. And at that moment, I wanted to be a part of service to this organization, to its principles and its ideals. One thing that I've learned definitively over the past 1.5 years, and particularly in recent months, since the recent additions to the staff of the center, is that this center is in very good shape. We have a highly motivated and talented staff and a deeply committed board of directors. I assure you that this center will not only endure under their leadership and guidance, but it will thrive. And I thank you for the opportunity to serve.